Oh, it's on Facebook too. Mm.
All right, welcome. Hello, and welcome to Wellness Wednesday Live. I am Bethany Zell. I'm the program director for Healthy You at Cary Medical Center. And I am joined today with registered dietitian, RDN, registered
Dietitian and nutritionist.
nutritionist. So sorry, Marthe Pelletier.
Okay.
And we are here today to talk about meal planning in honor of National Nutrition Month. And we've been talking so far in this month all about healthy ways of eating and looking at our nutrition programs, but meal planning certainly has an important role in all of that. And I guess we should start, Marthe, by just asking, how can our health be impacted by our nutritional choices? What chronic conditions do we see impacted by the choices that we make with our food?
Oh, that's an easy one. All of them.
All of them.
Chronic conditions are, for the most part, if not all, associated with poor eating habits because usually weight's involved, and people who have weight issues, usually it's poor eating habits. Basically, each and every individual cell in your body needs to have vitamins and minerals and antioxidants and phytochemicals, and in addition to protein and carbs and fat. So we need to feed the cells. So if we're eating high fat, high sugar, and especially white flour, high fat, high sugar, there's calories, which we need, but there's not necessarily nutrients. And so once the cells are not able to feed themselves, they're not feed themselves appropriately. They're not able to do what they should do in the manner that they could. And so you get a backlog and things start breaking down, and your organs don't react as well. And it's pretty much all to do with how we feed ourselves. At the end of the day, you can talk, ketogenic diet, you can talk American Heart Association diet, you can do any diet you want. But at the end of the day, what you're trying to do is feed your cells. And I think that's where people go wrong. When they follow a diet, they look for, a quick response right away, right now, instead of thinking longer term. Feed your cells. Your cells are happy, your organs will be happy. If your organs are happy, they'll work well together and you end up being a healthier person.
Yeah, and we're in that instant fix kind of mindset and society. And so people want those fixes very quickly. So how can meal planning help with that long-term mindset? How can it help people stick to and support their nutritional goals and overall healthy lifestyle?
So I guess I would start by saying, well, first of all, what is your goal? Are you looking to shed weight? Not everybody follows a diet because they want to shed weight. Some people have other goals. Some it's, better glucose control for the diabetes. Some it's better blood pressure control if they have hypertension. There's different reasons. But when you sit down and plan, especially if you do it, let's say Saturday morning, you plan your meals for the whole week. Well, if you're going to go to the grocery store, which you are, you're going to need a list. So if you plan your meals ahead, then you can back up and plan your grocery list. And so, especially in like a time like today, where you don't want to be out in the public a whole lot, when you walk in with your list of goods that you need, you walk in, you pick up, you pay, and you leave. Okay. So safety for that. But just in general, when you walk in with a list because you planned your menu, you go in, you pick up, you don't go looking, you don't go shopping around in the aisles. You go, you pick up, you put in your cart, and you go pay. So it's a lot less tempting to pick up crackers, chips, or, ooh, that's on sale. It's nothing that you need. It's nothing that's good for you, but you see something that's on sale. So we tend to go for those things, and it's like, oh, not a good idea. So, even if you do have a list, you might end up in the grocery store picking something up that was not on your list. But if at least you can, tone it down, do it less often, um, you really, you stick to something that is better for you. You make better decisions.
I mean, you
Really.
still got to get through the register line
Yeah.
with all the candies lining it. But yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Having a list can definitely keep you focused and less distracted
Okay.
from all that superfluous
Yeah.
extras and
Yeah.
goodies. And it can definitely help your budget, which I know we'll talk about
Mhm.
in our next Wellness Wednesday live. But if you stick to your list, you have a better idea what you're going to be spending when you go to the
Yes.
grocery store. Would you suggest that people do their meal planning on a weekly basis? Is that, kind of the RDN typical
I
way
suppose,
of doing things?
yeah, my answer to that is I don't know how to do it differently. I never was able to go to the grocery store myself and buy whatever. Like, I don't understand how I guess it's just the way I was raised. I don't know, but I don't know how people select meat or vegetables or fruit without having to know how they're going to incorporate it. Because when we're talking about, healthy eating, making good choices and achieve those two if you don't know what you're getting at the store.
Mm.
Maybe okay, you see broccoli and you're like, oh, yeah, I feel like eating that this week, and you put it in your cart, and since you didn't plan your meals, it gets left behind because you're wasting vegetables, you're wasting fruit. So if you've decided what you're going to eat and buy strictly what you're going to eat or what's on your menu, it's a lot easier to, stay the line. It's cheaper. And, in terms of less expensive, I know most people, when they plan, they start off, well, okay, what meat am I going to choose for Monday? I would recommend, turn that around and start with what vegetable you'd like to eat, because when you're meal planning, when you're planning anything, you want to plan for, what needs the most attention. And in our society, we don't eat enough vegetables. Never, never, not even close. So I just try and recommend turn that table around, start with the vegetable. Okay, it costs a lot of money to buy fresh vegetables. Okay, but there are sales. You can look at those weekly sales and start with the vegetables that are on sale and work your way, because usually people do the meat first. So if you can turn it around and do the vegetables first and plan your snacks around fruit and not anything that has a food label, you're usually better off. So planning will dictate how well you follow the goal that you want to achieve, how well you're going to follow the rules that you've set out. It's going to help with money management, because you can really save a lot of money when you plan ahead. And there would also be less wasting at the house, less food wastage. Yeah, you can have some leftovers, but you can plan for a night that's what you're having. You know what I mean? When you plan ahead, you can look and
Sure.
see. And the other thing is, we're always tempted to eat junk. Oh, wouldn't it be so nice to stop and pick up a pizza on the way home or something like that? Well, if you have leftovers that you're going to lose unless you eat them, and you've already paid for it, chances are what's going to happen is you're going to say, no, I have leftovers and I really should eat those. And so nothing is stopping you from eating, making bad choices, but you tend to make them less often. So nobody's looking for perfection. You just set everything in motion so that you win instead of, oh, geez, excuse me. Excuse me. Whoops.
And I think even that leftover strategy could be a meal planning strategy where you okay?
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Oh,
The leftover making could be a meal planning strategy where you strategically plan to make more than what you would consume in that meal so that you strategically are prepared to have some leftovers that you can then repurpose.
yes.
So working those leftovers in, and if my family's the kind that doesn't like to eat the same thing 3 meals in a row. So I'll sometimes make something that we'll keep for 2 days and skip a day in between to kind of break it up. So it's not like we ate this for dinner, now we're eating it for lunch, and then we're having it for dinner again. And oh my goodness, it's been 3 days of this. So you can work those in. And I know one of the excuses I use a lot, we have a family of 5. And so if 1 or 2 of my kids is busy in the evening or isn't feeling hungry, I'm always like, I'm not just going to cook for 2 of us or 3 of us.
Yeah.
And I find that that's an excuse that I tend to use a lot to get out of making a meal because I think it doesn't make sense. But in that way, those leftovers could be very helpful to, cook, even if it's just for 2 of you and you could eat the leftover, even if it's just for 1 person, factoring in those leftovers that you might have available.
Good.
So how detailed do people need to get with their meal plans? Do you think it's important to plan out every single breakfast, lunch, dinner, more institutional? I always think kind of institutional when I think of like strategically planning every single morsel that goes in your mouth. What are your thoughts on that?
No, I don't. There's always, things that you can't predict. Okay. Which is fine. And I mean, even if you do plan your meals ahead of time and you're really good at it, it doesn't mean you're still not going to throw some stuff out. There's always, life happens. But when you plan ahead, it's not a guarantee. It's just that it makes it easier for you to follow through. And I find, like, especially people who are trying to lose weight, they follow a diet and then, they're really good at it. They follow it, but it was never integrated. They were just following instructions. And once they achieve their goal, they do what? Well, they go back to what they know. Yeah. So, okay. When you plan things ahead of time, it's easier for you to follow because it's already done. You've put the effort in ahead of time instead of at the time when you're hungry and it's, critical thinking and you don't have that ability because you have a low sugar or whatever. If things are done ahead, it's easy to be good. It's easy. So,
and I think it also eliminates that thinking about, talking about food, planning your food. It feels like sometimes when you're doing things on the fly, you're always so consumed with what am I going to eat next? What's next? And it almost puts you thinking so much about food that becomes unhealthy. Like even though you're thinking healthy, it's just too much focus on the food. So compartmentalizing it, keeping it on a weekly basis or whatever frequency works for your meal planning I feel like it helps me at least not feel so consumed.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
How important is portion control? And, do we have to have scales for every meal? Is that really only important if you're trying to lose weight? Is there a place for weighing and measuring every morsel in a healthy lifestyle, I guess?
I wouldn't say weighing every morsel. But we have I guess in society, the serving sizes have gone completely out of control. We all know the super size at takeouts and things like that, where you can get a huge soda, loaded sugar and an extra large French fry. Um, so our perception of what a serving looks like is a little bit off. The other thing is, if you read nutrition facts label, they do give you a serving size, so to help you out. But they want you to eat their product. They want you to consume a lot of their product so that you can turn around and go and buy more. Mm-hmm. So just because they put a serving size on their product, it doesn't mean it is a normal serving size if we're looking at, better weight management or better diabetes management. So I don't really put huge amount of emphasis on weighing things, because if you're not going to weigh it forever and ever, I don't direct people in that direction. When I teach somebody, I hope that whatever they're doing to achieve their goal is something they can maintain. So if you're not going to be weighing your food the rest of your life, I don't go there. I mean, if they want to, that's fine. It's okay, but I don't push. There is what's called the plate method, in which they show a simple plate and they divide the other half into two halves, which makes 2/4 for the meat and the grain. And I like that idea, where you get at least the proportion that it should be in your plate. Now, if you choose a huge plate, you know what I mean? But at least you get the proportion. Yeah, at least you get the proportion. So that way, if you go out to eat, if you visit family, you're still able to make a judgment call without, having to take out the scales and the measuring cups and everything. You should be able to eyeball it. It's always a good idea to go back and measure things every once in a blue moon, because our vision really does increase in terms of what half a cup looks like today and what it will look like in a month from now. So just pulling it out, measuring, recheck. But
it's amazing
I don't
how quickly that
encourage
gets
it.
away. It's amazing.
Yeah,
I just had to do that with my creamer in my coffee, because I was thinking like, oh, I just use a tablespoon of creamer. And it began looking a little fuller than normal. And I pulled out my measuring spoon, and sure enough, I was using closer to 3. And it just creeps away from you. You think you got it eyeballed, and you don't.
Yeah, not even close.
So yeah, refreshers are great with the measuring, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you consider? I know everybody is different as far as their health concerns and their health risks and how their nutrition can impact that, and diabetics and people who have high blood pressure. There are similarities in the nutrition that works and helps with those conditions. But what is there kind of one nutritional recommendation that you feel applies to the majority of people, regardless of their condition?
You'd always have to consider the condition, but when I see people, I don't just look at what they're eating, I look at also what they're not eating. And I would say most of the time, it's what's missing in their diet that's the problem. So, surprise, surprise, there's not enough fruits, there's not enough vegetables. It's always the same too. And the grains are white. Those 3 issues are just not good. So I really stress, again, getting back to the plate method. really stress, it's not enough one vegetable at supper. You really need two. And then the serving size of your meat, you don't need that much protein in a day. And then you don't need that many grains. Bring that down and hopefully you go to whole foods. So no white stuff, lots of green vegetables, plenty of fresh fruits, no juices, those kinds of things. So I kind of push people more towards the plants because that's what we're not eating enough of, truly.
And we don't have to be afraid of them at breakfast either, right? Like, I know that was a hard
Plants?
sell for me when
Oh,
I started eating healthy. Like, how do you eat vegetables at breakfast? But there are, I
yeah,
mean, you talked about making a smoothie, and that's a great way to get some of those fruits and veggies in first thing, or, an egg omelet loaded with vegetables.
yeah,
Um, there are all kinds of great ways. Vegetables are for breakfast too. I think
yeah,
that's
they
important
are. They can be, yeah, absolutely.
for sure.
Yeah.
Well, this has been awesome. And I don't know, do you have anything else you'd like to add? Anything you think we haven't covered?
Um, I think I'm just going to tack on a little bit to menu planning, because I think if you plan ahead, you can try new recipes. And I think that's something that's important because we all have our, favorites, family favorites, or easy to do or quick to do. If, all hell breaks loose in the household, you could always fall back on certain recipes. But when you try new ones, you every once in a while, like typically I will make 10 different or 10 new recipes and there's only one that's a keeper. But man, when you hit that keeper, and if you keep planning and trying new recipes, you will find new different foods that you never knew you liked. There might be some you don't care for, but that's okay too, knowing that. And so I really think if you plan ahead, you can try new things, you find new things that you like. You can improve cooking skills, because if you do it ahead of time, you're not in a rush. You can try something different.
And there are so many resources now online. Like, we're not even bound to like the traditional cookbook.
No.
I mean, it's endless, the stream of healthy recipes that you can find online. I'm in like
Yes.
Facebook groups of friends that just share recipes. And I've
Yeah.
found several keepers that have been now added to my family's list of favorites through those groups. So sharing that information it's fun.
Yeah. Yeah. So planning ahead, it sounds like a lot of work. Is actually, it will reduce stress like you don't believe because you don't have to think ahead. You've already done it.
Yeah.
And also if you plan menus, sometimes you can do some prep work the day before. So the night before you can chop up your cauliflower, and then when it comes time for supper the next day, you just throw that in the pot and away it goes, So
I've got some friends that do that even with their lunches. They like pack them all up for the entire week on the weekend. They have one day of doing it and chop all the
and it's done, no stress.
Yeah.
And then you're less, like I said before, you're less tempted to deviate from your goal. Your food is made, so you'll eat it.
Yeah. And the other thing too, even making beyond making your meal plan, getting to the store to grocery shop and making sure you have those ingredients, because there's nothing that kills a healthy menu more than you come home after a long day of work and you don't have like 3 of the ingredients you need for whatever it was that's on your menu.
Yeah.
So having those ingredients is going to save you from making that phone call for pizza at the last minute because you didn't stop at the store or whatever. That's awesome. And we're going to be doing some of those. We're going to be doing some additional grocery shopping type workshops this month through our Healthy You program. So anyone is out there and interested in that, just take a look at our event calendar. I know our first one is coming up tomorrow about a pantry makeover, and how to kind of have some of those healthy foundational ingredients on hand. So even if you maybe your weekend got blown up and you didn't have a chance to meal plan. At least you've got some staples that you keep on hand
And fall
that you can
back on.
quickly
Yep.
throw together and fall back on.
Mhm.
And I think that's even part of meal planning, knowing what those fallback meals are.
Yes. Yeah. Back up for the backup.
Yes, lots and lots of planning. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much. Happy
Oh, you're welcome.
RDN Day. Today is
Thank
the
you.
day that the world celebrates you and all that you do to help people be healthy and find ways to incorporate more nutrition into their lives. So we appreciate all that you do. And
You're
for those
welcome.
of you watching, thank you for being here. We hope you'll check back with us in 2 weeks for our next Wellness Wednesday Live, which we'll be talking about budgeting and how to shop smarter on a budget and eat healthier on a budget. So we'll see you back here in 2 weeks. Thank you.